You're listening to A Radio.
He says there are right now 23,000 outstanding applications, and that the reason that those haven't been processed is because you obviously pulled back on your processing because you couldn't keep up that pace. Why don't you just sort of rubber stamp those refugees and bring them in, given that they are privately sponsored?
Well, look, let me first talk about privately sponsored in an international context. We are having a joint initiative, and tomorrow we will announce it, between Canada, George Soros, and the UNHCR, which is an initiative to sell our privately sponsored refugee program to other countries. I know of at least 13 countries who have a potential interest, and so I think this would do a service to the world, because I think it is far superior if you can bring in refugees sponsored by your own citizens than if those same refugees arrive irregularly or illegally.
We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. This piece is a very short piece, and as before, I make no apologies for that, because in this case, that's what it actually calls for. The clip I'm going to play for you may or may not be the best quality. That could be, of course, because it's from Fox, who continued to be, shall we say, less than helpful when quoting their network. Just an aside, you would have thought, wouldn't you, that any news organisation is always seeking to reach as many citizens as possible, and it would appreciate any efforts from any third-party organisation who could help them in that task, because not everyone can listen to Fox 24/7. But alas, that doesn't seem to be the case. Anyway, this piece is from the Ingram Angle, October 25, 2019. The subject is one of my many pet peeves, that being of Soros. But this time it's not in Canada, and it's not Canadians who he's attacking. It's ordinary Americans in larger urban areas where he's seeking to do God knows what. Well, I'll let them describe what he's going to do. Here's the piece. Links on my site. Maybe.
George Soros has been quietly working behind the scenes for decades, but now he has a new goal, and it's a very dangerous one. The liberal billionaire has been spending the last few years financing the campaigns of far-left prosecutors with the goal of transforming how laws are enforced, or rather not enforced. Now, Soros backs the Justice and Public Safety PAC, which works hand in hand with the Justice Collaborative, a liberal group that advocates not prosecuting serious crimes. And this group also likens incarceration to slavery. According to a May 2018 investigation by the LA Times, Soros pumped in at least $2.7 million into 4 California DA races back in 2018. The paper also reported that Soros spent more than $16 million in 17 county races across the country since 2014. And Soros' local election spending spree, well, it didn't stop there. This year, he's targeting 2 Virginia counties, not far from where we're broadcasting from tonight. Joining me now are 2 candidates he is trying to take out. Jonathan Fahey, candidate for the Office of Commonwealth's Attorney for Fairfax County, and Nicole Whitman, Chief Deputy Commonwealth's Attorney for Loudoun County. All right, Jonathan, what kind of candidates does Soros back in Virginia? We already lost a great Commonwealth attorney in Theo Stamos, who's finishing up her year, but she was unseated for someone who has no experience. But what's going on here? What kind of candidates is he supporting?
Well, in my race in Fairfax County, I'm running because the incumbent Ray Morrow, the Democrat, was defeated in the primary thanks to $500,000 by George Soros. But the types of candidates he's financing are candidates. My opponent has never tried a case in Virginia courts. He's a tax lawyer, and he's running on this, what they call it, criminal justice reform, but it's essentially the underlying theme is to delegitimize our entire system. And he's running on ideas of not prosecuting certain crimes, that all of our whole system's not legitimate, including the police.
Yeah. So I want to put up the dossier, or little. It's a resume of no talent. Sorry, resume of little experience. So this is your opponent, Steve Descano. Okay, Descano. That was Descano. So he graduated law school in 2010. He never tried a case, as you said, in Virginia. He had a brief stint as a federal prosecutor, but in the criminal tax division. And on his website, it says he'll develop metrics that flag areas of systemic discrimination and implement solutions to fix those inequalities. We know when they say criminal justice reform, that what they really mean, Nicole, is not prosecute entire categories of crime, just as we've been enjoying a declining violent crime rate. So what does this mean for localities? A Commonwealth's attorney, people don't know what that means. That's the most important prosecutor in an entire large swath. Your county, Loudoun County, is one of the most important counties in the country, as is Fairfax County.
Right. Well, what it means is that you have prosecutors who are now not interested in community safety. They're not interested in victims' rights. They're not interested in protecting our communities. What they're interested in is weaponizing these local prosecutors' office to try to push their social agenda.
So it's bypassing the state legislature.
Exactly right.
And trying to effect policy change through executive prioritization or executive action. Do I have that correct?
That's exactly right. They're going to do selective prosecution. They're not going to prosecute certain theft offenses. They're not going to prosecute violent crimes in schools. They're not going to prosecute drug offenses. And so what that causes is a dangerous atmosphere in the community and lack of community safety.
Now, tell us what the Krasner effect is. People don't maybe know, outside of Philly, who Larry Krasner is, a candidate for for Philadelphia DA supported by Soros. What's happened since he took office in, I guess, early 2018?
That's a great question, and it's really helpful for the voters in Fairfax County and Loudoun County to know, because a George Soros candidate, Larry Krasner, was elected in Philadelphia as a district attorney. And since then, in 2018, the murder rate went up 10%, and that might not seem like a lot unless you're one of the 35 people that lost a mother, a father, a son, a brother. And it's amazing. This has happened when crime has been going down other places, and Philadelphia is a total disaster.
It's a complete nightmare.
Yeah, the cops and the prosecutors are at war with each other. And that's what my opponent wants to bring to Fairfax County, which is remarkable. We have the safest large county in America, and he wants to bring Philadelphia to Fairfax County. And it's like, we have a great Commonwealth's attorney. We have a great police department. We should keep it that way.
People around the country, I want to really emphasize this. We talk a lot on this show about national politics, and it's important. There's an impeachment war going on. We have budget fights. We have about military deployments in faraway countries. This is all important, and we cover it. But you must occasionally drill down to what's happening on the local and state level, because this is where all the mischief is made, not only with your tax dollars, but it affects the safety I think the overall sense of community where you live. And I'm telling you, Nicole, I look at Kim Foxx in Chicago, another Soros-supported city attorney. Do we have to remember that she was given in 2016 $300,000 created to elect her?
Right.
Soros is responsible for Kim Foxx in Chicago.
He's buying elections. What he's doing is he's putting a lot of money into these local races where typically, for example,
where he doesn't live. He doesn't live. His family doesn't live. It's everyone else has to deal with increased crime rates.
This is not about public safety. He's not concerned with what happens in Loudoun County, with whether mothers are murdered or children are raped. He doesn't care about that. He is buying puppets who he is putting into office to push his agenda, and that's exactly what he's trying trying to do. There's an election now in Fairfax, in Arlington, and in Loudoun County where it used to be, $20,000, $30,000 used to be what a candidate would have to spend.
Right.
Now you're looking at millions of dollars.
People have to understand, this is in Fairfax and Loudoun County. Happened to Arlington, happened in Philly, happened in Chicago. This is going to come to a locality near you. Now, the people of Loudoun, people of Fairfax, I think they're going to make the right decisions. But you all got to hit hard. You can't. There's no patty cake with Soros. You got to call it what it is. It's an open door for criminals in these counties if you elect these Soros people. Fahey and Whitman. Remember those names. I expect great things from both of you. Jonathan, Nicole, thanks so much.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
So you heard that there. It couldn't have been clearer. Who's doing what? But the why is still the question, isn't it? Why would a billionaire pump so much money into local races to get his candidates in positions of power? You heard one possible answer, that being to abolish some laws that by not prosecuting certain crimes. But it can't end there, can it? What is happening is the systematic destabilizing of the American culture and the American way of life. It really is that simple. But to what end? What is the end goal? So what you have really is an attack on the base level of American culture and undermining the rule of law. And then go to the top of the tree and you have bought and paid for stooges like Adam Schiff. What's his goal? Trying to destabilize at the federal level. The goal is a simple one, and America is the prize. If you can crash America, if you can crash the American system, overwhelm it, to quote Saul Alinsky, and crash it, just like he has succeeded in Canada by bringing in millions of low-skilled immigrants, or refugees as they like to call them, causing a massive destabilizing of that country. Now, many would argue with that, but it's quite clear for people to see, for those who open their eyes, as the population of Canada is only that of California. So bringing in just 1 million people can make a huge difference to that country, rather than having such a lesser effect in America, as the US population is more than 10 times that of Canada. So a more bottom-up approach is required for the United States. Finally, none of them really mentioned the true goal. They used part of the word, but not the whole word, so I'll use it. It's Agenda 2030. They used the word agenda, but they didn't use 2030 because I don't think they can see it. Consider this. By crashing the US system, by overwhelming it, Agenda 2030 can be introduced. And one of the key parts of Agenda 2030 is massive immigration to change the balance of America and bring the final country that is out of step with the rest of the UN in line. They have achieved their goal. Now that sounds a bit tin-hattish, I know that. But look at all the pieces. Read Agenda 2030 yourself and you'll see Soros is a key supporter and promoter of this. To what end? We don't really know. It's almost as though he thinks he's got an immune card to the consequences of his actions. Maybe he will have, but we won't. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, Spotify, and email. We're on Spotify under the podcast section. Type in Canadian Politics with a twist and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass these links on to your friends. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com/A-Radio. EHRADIO, A-Radio. And please click on the like button. Join us Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 11:45 Eastern, and tell your friends and pass the word. We only tell the truth, not what the mainstream media want you to know.